Welcome to Berlin. The city that has withstood the storms of history, risen time and again from the ashes, and today shines as the heart of Europe. Before you lies not just the capital of Germany. It is a stage for great events, political turning points, and cultural breakthroughs. Here, the fate of the continent was decided, here the wall that divided the world fell, and here a new generation is growing up, open, free, and full of ideas. Berlin is the voice of Europe, heard in international negotiation halls, at universities, in street protests, and in every glance at the Bundestag.
But behind the political grandeur lies the soul of the city, creative, bold, and freedom-loving. You will admire the masterpieces of Museum Island and hear the whispers of the past in the narrow, old alleys, breathe in the spirit of Prussian splendor, and feel the pulse of the present at the Brandenburg Gate. Berlin is a symphony of eras, where both Beethoven and techno resound.
And as rich as its history may be, Berlin generously shares with you its green lungs, parks, lakes, and the shady avenues of the Tiergarten. Here, you can reflect, find inspiration, and simply be happy. Today, you begin a journey that will not only show you the city but let you truly feel it. Be ready to wonder, to reflect, to be inspired. Berlin has been waiting for you. It's time to discover it together.
Right in the heart of the city, directly opposite the Federal Chancellery, near the Reichstag, and not far from the Brandenburg Gate, stands Berlin's Central Station, the largest transportation hub in Europe, where trains run on multiple levels. It is the fourth busiest station in Germany in terms of passenger volume, after Hamburg, Frankfurt am Main, and Munich. Around 330,000 passengers arrive and depart here every day. It is a perfect place to start exploring Berlin. Berlin Central Station is a true architectural masterpiece and one of the largest and most modern railway stations in Europe. The impressive glass and steel building, gleaming in the sunlight, was designed by the renowned German architect Meinhard von Gerken. The main idea was not simply to create a functional structure, but to offer a bright, spacious, and comfortable place for travelers that would also symbolize the reunification of East and West Germany. The station was built on the site of the former Lüders Bahnhof, which was destroyed during World War II. On both sides of the main building rise two office towers, each 46 meters high. They represent East and West Germany, while the central building with its arched roof connects these two towers like a musical ligature, uniting them into one. The station was opened in 2006, just in time for the Football World Cup. It was an enormous project. The construction took 10 years and cost €1,200,000,000.
The station has several levels. On the upper level, long-distance trains operate, while on the lower levels, regional trains and the subway run. This allows for convenient transfers between different modes of transportation without having to leave the station. The enormous glass-arched roof lets plenty of daylight flood into the interior, creating a bright and airy space. The area of this roof covers around 20,000 square meters. Massive steel beams and supports not only hold up the roof but also serve as design elements, giving the station a modern and industrial appearance. Numerous escalators and panoramic elevators make it easy for passengers to move around. Despite its impressive size, the station's architecture is characterized by clarity and thoughtful structure. Orientation is easy, with many signs, and everything you need, shops, cafes, service centers, is conveniently accessible. Berlin Central Station is not only a transportation hub, but also a vibrant place where people meet, life pulsates, and modern architecture merges harmoniously with functionality. In a way, it is the gateway to Berlin, and at the same time an important landmark of the city. In 2020, a new architectural highlight was built right next to the station, the Cube Berlin, a modern food factory that hosts numerous cafes and restaurants catering to a wide range of culinary tastes. Of course, you can also find snacks and eateries inside the station itself, but here the atmosphere is calmer and more pleasant.
Just a few minutes' walk from Berlin's central station is the Futurium, a unique museum of the future in the heart of Berlin. It opened in 2019 and is much more than a traditional exhibition space. It is a center for ideas, experiments, and dialogue about how our future might look. The central idea of the Futurium is to present different future scenarios and to encourage visitors to reflect on the question, how do we want to live? It is not a museum in the traditional sense, but rather an interactive platform where science, technology, and society come together to explore possible paths of development. Unlike classical museums, at the Futurium, you are invited to touch, try out, and discover many things for yourself. Numerous multimedia installations, simulators, and interactive exhibits invite visitors to actively engage with the topics of the future.
The main exhibition is divided into 3 thematic areas: human, nature, and technology. Each area explores different aspects of our future interactions with these spheres. Here, you can reflect on how our bodies might change, how we will interact with nature in times of climate change, and what astonishing technologies may await us. In the basement, you'll find the Futurium Lab, a laboratory where visitors can experiment hands-on with 3D printers, laser cutters, and other technologies. Regular workshops and interactive activities are also offered, giving visitors the chance to develop and implement their own ideas. The Futurium building itself is an example of sustainable architecture. It was designed according to principles of resource conservation and energy efficiency and is almost energy self-sufficient.
Solar panels are installed on the roof of the Futurium, and a rainwater collection system is also used, an example of green architecture designed with the future in mind. At the top of the building, there is also an observation deck offering an impressive panoramic view over Berlin. A visit to the Futurium is like a journey through time, allowing you to glimpse into tomorrow, ask important questions, and perhaps even find inspiration for your own actions, for a better future. What's more, admission to the main exhibition at the Futurium is free of charge.
After visiting the Futurium, we step out onto the banks of the Spree and stroll toward the Kronprinzen Bridge. The Spree is considered Berlin's most important river, running through the city for 48 kilometers. In the district of Spandau, the Spree flows into the Havel, which then passes through Potsdam near Havelberg before ultimately joining the Elbe. This makes it possible to travel by boat from Berlin to Hamburg, Dresden, or even Prague. From the central station, rising majestically in glass and steel, your gaze drifts to the water. Everything seems to breathe freedom. The air is filled with the scent of blooming lilac and a fresh river breeze. Barges and excursion boats glide gently over the Spree, leaving soft ripples in their wake, while the bridges, light and almost weightless, cast their arched shadows onto the smooth surface of the water. The impressive modern buildings along the riverbank blend with the natural riverscape into a fascinating architectural and scenic ensemble that reflects the dynamism and openness of Berlin.
From the Kronprinzen Bridge, we admire the elegant 2-level pedestrian bridge that connects 2 impressive buildings on the opposite banks of the Spree. From here, we continue our walk toward the Reichstag, Germany's historic parliamentary building.
It is almost impossible to walk along the banks of the Spree between Berlin Central Station and the Reichstag without feeling the breath of history. Where today's sunlight dances on the facades of modern buildings, the Berlin Wall once stood, a massive, gray concrete barrier that divided 2 worlds. At this spot, the Spree was a border river, West Berlin on one side, East Berlin on the other. People did not stroll here. This was a place of watchtowers and sniper scopes. Today, only narrow lines of cobblestones embedded in the ground and a few preserved fragments of the walls serve as reminders of the former border. Yet the memory lingers in the air, unspoken but palpable. And precisely at this place, almost on the line of the former wall, 2 symbols of the new Germany now rise, the Paul Loeb Building and the Marie-Elisabeth Lüders Building. They are part of Berlin's so-called political axis, the modern parliamentary buildings where the German Bundestag works. These buildings stand for openness, transparency, and democratic dialogue, taking place at a location once marked by division and silence.
To the right, close to the water, rises the Marie-Elisabeth Lüders Building, named after one of the first female members of the German parliament, a remarkable figure and dedicated advocate for human rights and democracy. The building appears light and elegant, defined by its distinctive round glass facade and the delicate pedestrian bridge. The Lüders Building stands precisely on the spot where the Berlin Wall once ran. In the lower level of the Parliamentary Library, fragments of the wall are installed exactly along the former border between East and West Berlin. Together, the Paul Loeb Building and the Marie-Elisabeth Lüders Building form an architectural unity. The crossing between the buildings over the Spree is described by their architect, Stefan Braunfels, as a leap over the Spree. This connection from east to west symbolizes Germany's unity, the bridge between past and future, between ideas and their realization. Today, the Marie-Elisabeth Lüders Building houses the library, archives, and scientific services of the German Bundestag, central places of knowledge and research for parliamentary work.
The Paul Loeb Building, massive and austere, is named after the Social Democrat and former president of the Reichstag, Paul Loeb. The building appears strict, bright, and, thanks to its expansive glass facades, almost transparent, as if to say, here, power is visible and accountable. This is where the members of parliament work, where hearings and committee meetings take place, where decisions are made that affect the lives of millions. These two buildings, the Paul Loeb Building and the Marie-Elisabeth Lüders Building, look at each other across the Spree. They are closely connected both architecturally and in their purpose. And against this backdrop, it becomes clear, Berlin has not forgotten that it was once divided, but the city has succeeded not only in reuniting the banks of the Spree but also in reuniting itself.
From the riverside promenade, we climb the steps up to the Reichstag building. On the east side of the Reichstag, we discover a rather modest, yet profoundly significant monument to solidarity. It is a section of the brick wall from the shipyard in Gdansk, where, in August 1980, the historic strikes began that led to the founding of the independent trade union, Solidarność, Solidarity. It was on this very wall that Lech Walesa, the charismatic leader of the movement, climbed to organize the workers and coordinate the strikes. Although the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 is often seen as the most symbolic event marking the collapse of communism, the crucial foundations for this change were already laid in Poland, with the courageous stand of solidarity. The bravery of Polish workers and intellectuals paved the way to freedom for millions of people in Eastern Europe. The rise of Solidarność was thus a powerful prelude to the end of the bloody communist era. This humble monument at the Reichstag serves as a reminder that the path to freedom often begins where people unite in solidarity, across national borders.
The Imperial Lanterns were installed at the end of the 19th century. They symbolize the power of the German Empire and are designed in an ornate neo-Baroque style. At the top of the lantern stands a female figure holding laurel wreaths in her hands, a symbol of victory and triumph. At the base of the lanterns are relief-like depictions with allegorical scenes and symbols of the empire, emphasizing imperial power and grandeur. After the destruction of World War II, these lanterns were meticulously restored and reconstructed. Today, they are considered architectural monuments that not only recall Imperial Berlin but also reflect the city's eventful and changing history.
The word Reichstag does not merely mean building of the state assembly, it echoes history itself, as a symbol of power and change, a place where fateful decisions were carved in stone. When, in 1806, the 1,000-year history of the Holy Roman Empire of the German nation came to an end, Europe said farewell to an entire era. Only a few years later, the Napoleonic Wars finally destroyed the old order. Yet from the ruins of the empire, a new political structure emerged. In 1815, the German Confederation was founded, uniting 39 independent principalities and states. This German Confederation was established as a result of the Congress of Vienna, which redrew Europe's political map after the Napoleonic Wars. The world stood on the brink of a new era. There were different visions of what the future of Germany should look like. Some advocated the creation of a unified nation-state, while others, especially Austria and Prussia, sought to preserve political fragmentation, fearing the loss of their influence. After Austria's defeat in the Austro-Prussian War of 1866, the German Confederation was officially dissolved. This marked a decisive step toward the creation of a new German nation-state under Prussian leadership.
During this time, Otto von Bismarck decisively stepped onto the stage of history, the man who would later become known as the Iron Chancellor. At his initiative, the North German Confederation was established, which became the foundation of the later German Empire. In 1871, the German Empire was proclaimed in the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles, an act that ushered in a new era of German statehood. The title of Emperor was assumed by the Prussian King Wilhelm I of Hohenzollern, while Bismarck was appointed the first Chancellor of a united Germany. The new empire consisted of 25 states, 4 kingdoms, 6 grand duchies, 5 duchies, 7 principalities, and 3 free cities. But this new Germany needed a heart, a parliament. The Reichstag, which would not only serve as a stage for political debate but also become a symbol of the new German strength. At first, the Reichstag met in temporary buildings in Berlin, but the call for a dedicated, representative building grew ever louder. Thus, the idea of an imposing Reichstag building in Berlin began to take shape, one that would architecturally reflect the ambitions and pride of the young empire.
Yet just a few months after the founding of the empire, the decision was made to construct a building worthy of the new era. The search began for a suitable location, along with the announcement of an international architectural competition. However, the construction of the Reichstag turned out to be a lengthy undertaking. Nearly 25 years passed from the initial idea to its completion. The design by the winning architect, Paul Wallot, was eventually realized in stone between 1884 and 1894. He created a monumental building in the Neo-Renaissance style, enriched with Baroque elements, fully in line with the ambitions and national pride of that time. A special feature of the building was the glass and steel dome above the plenary chamber, a technical masterpiece of its era. The dome was intended not only to bring light into parliamentary debates but also to demonstrate to the world the achievements of German engineering. The imposing structure symbolized Imperial Germany. The 4 corner towers represented the different regions of the empire, while the dome, as a sign of German unity, rose above all else. Thus the Reichstag came into being, a building that became not only the political center but, over time, one of the most important symbols of German history, enduring empires, wars, fires, and rebirth.
The architect Paul Wallot, inspired by the spirit of civic unity, proposed as early as 1894, on the occasion of the opening of the Reichstag building, to adorn the facade with a simple yet meaningful inscription, "To the German people." This inscription was far more than just words. It was intended to symbolize a new era in which the people would become the foundation of the state. However, Emperor Wilhelm II, jealously guarding the monarchical order, firmly rejected this proposal. To him, the mention of the people at the central seat of imperial power was a dangerous affront to the throne and the principles of monarchy. Thus, the intended place for these significant words remained empty for more than a decade, a silent memorial to the simmering conflict between progress and tradition, between the emerging bourgeoisie and the entrenched power of the emperor.
It was not until 1916, in the exhausting turmoil of the First World War, when even the Social Democrats were forced to approve war credits and the Reich was increasingly losing its strength, that the emperor changed his stance. Perhaps he sought to strengthen the feeling of national unity, perhaps to create an illusion of a common cause and shared sacrifice. The decision was made, the inscription would finally be cast in bronze. For this purpose, metal from 2 French cannons captured during the Wars of Liberation from 1813 to 1815 was melted down. Thus, the bronze of the former enemy was transformed into the lettering of national spirit. The words were crafted in a style of uncial script, which was, at the time, both modern and elegant, yet majestic, inspired by the ancient inscriptions of Rome. And so, at last, above the portal of the Reichstag, appeared the simple yet weighty words, "To the German people." This inscription became a symbol of the complicated relationship between power and the people, between past and future, between war and hope, a legacy that still adorns the facade of the Reichstag today and invites quiet reflection on German history.
On February 27, 1933, a fiery glow lit up the Berlin sky, an event that became a symbol of the end of the Weimar Republic and the beginning of a dark era. The burning of the Reichstag building was not only a tragedy but also the opening act for the establishment of the Nazi dictatorship. The fire, which broke out just 1 month after the National Socialists seized power, was immediately exploited by Adolf Hitler and his followers as a political tool. Still without full control over the state, they used the blaze as a pretext for a ruthless crackdown on political opponents. The blame was immediately placed on the communists, who were branded as enemies of the state. In turn, the communists accused the Nazis of having staged the fire themselves to consolidate their power. To this day, it remains unclear who actually set the Reichstag on fire. However, the political consequences were clear even then, with the so-called Reichstag Fire Decree, officially titled the Decree for the Protection of the People and the State. Hitler effectively abolished the rule of law within hours. Civil liberties were suspended, political opponents were persecuted and imprisoned. The path to totalitarian rule was now firmly set.
From that moment on, the rollback of democracy began. Between 1933 and 1942, the now fully synchronized Nazi Reichstag convened only 19 times. These sessions were mere stage performances, political spectacles that had nothing to do with genuine legislation. The Reichstag building, once a symbol of the People's Parliament, became meaningless and obsolete in the new architecture of the Third Reich. Hitler had new temples of power built, gigantic stadiums, party rally grounds, monumental Reich chancelleries. The Reichstag, by contrast, remained in the shadows. Its windows were bricked up, and the building decayed into the backdrop of a bygone era, during the course of the Second World War. The building lost even its last political function. It was reduced to a purely utilitarian space. The company AEG set up the production of radio tubes for the front in its rooms. Parts of the building were converted into a military hospital, others even served as a maternity ward for the Chairite. The former heart of parliamentarism thus became a silent witness to the decay of democracy, a symbol of how easily a building can remain, while its spirit and purpose disappear.
Victory brought peace to Europe, but no inner peace and no calm. In the first post-war decades, the Reichstag building stood in the western half of divided Berlin, silent, charred, and filled with emptiness. It was not only a reminder of the past war but also of the unattainable ideal of unity, shattered along with its collapsed dome. In 1954, the remains of the once famous glass and steel dome were demolished, officially due to the risk of collapse. Yet many architects believed that the dome could have technically stood for decades to come. Perhaps, however, the true reason lay deeper. It was likely also about removing a symbol associated with the fallen monarchy and the burned-out Weimar Republic. Soon, discussions began about a possible reconstruction. But in the times of the Cold War and a divided Germany, the building's purpose remained unclear. Who was supposed to meet in this parliament? And to whom did the Reichstag even belong now? The construction work dragged on for almost 2 decades, until 1973. Yet even afterward, the Reichstag remained a silent monument of uncertainty, a stone relic without a clear political function in a city that was symbolically and literally divided.
The commission for the new appearance of the Reichstag building was given to the West German architect Paul Baumgarten. He approached the task with strict objectivity, in the spirit of post-war modern rationalism. A restoration of the dome was deliberately ruled out. The lavish historicism of the facades, with decorative stucco, carvings, and elements of Neo-Renaissance and Neo-Baroque, was considered outdated and unnecessary. Citing war damage and the sobriety of the new era, these elements were removed, giving the building a much more restrained, almost austere character, yet one gesture in Baumgarten's design already pointed toward the future. He restored the former plenary chamber, which had been destroyed in the fire of 1933. In doing so, he deliberately included seats for all members of parliament, despite the nation still being divided, as a hopeful sign that one day a united German Bundestag might once again convene under this roof. This quiet architectural symbol was a gesture of confidence amid political division, a sign that perhaps the story of the Reichstag building was not yet over.
But Germany remained divided for the time being. From 1961 onward, the Berlin Wall ran directly in front of the Reichstag's facade, a visible wound that pierced the heart of the city. Until 1989, it cut the building off from the eastern half of Berlin, turning it into a silent witness to the tragedy that unfolded along this border, where dozens of lives were lost. On the night of October 3, 1990, the black-red-gold flag was slowly raised at the west portal of the Reichstag. It fluttered in the midnight air not as a symbol of triumph, but as a banner of regained unity. In that moment, the Germany divided by the wall for nearly 3 decades became one nation again. At the foot of the building, which had once become a symbol of division and tragedy, the reunification festivities were now held. It was far more than a legal act, it was a moment of historical justice, and the Reichstag, as if awakened from a decades-long slumber, once again stood at the center of Germany's destiny.
Soon, Berlin once again became the capital, and the Reichstag building prepared to once again host the representatives of a united nation under its roof. From 1995 to 1999, extensive renovation and restoration work took place. Nearly everything that Paul Baumgarten had created during the Cold War years, sober, strict, functional, was dismantled. The architects returned to the original concept of Paul Wallot, but not with the goal of reconstructing the past, rather to create a dialogue between the eras. One of the most important criteria of the competition for the redesign was to preserve the traces of history. The scars of destruction, war, and division were to remain visible as a memorial to the fragility of democracy. The competition was won by the British architect Norman Foster, who gave the Reichstag a new, world-famous symbol, the transparent glass dome, opening wide to the sky and accessible to all. This dome became far more than just an architectural element. It became a metaphor for the new Germany, a country where power is no longer hidden behind walls but is visible and accessible to everyone. Today, the new dome stands for an open, transparent democracy, for the connection between past and future, for a Germany that acknowledges its history and at the same time looks openly toward the future.
The dome, with a height of 23.5 meters and a diameter of 40 meters, crowns the Reichstag building like the crown of a new era. Tourists, citizens, school groups, and delegations ascend its spiraling ramps, and before them opens a breathtaking panorama of Berlin. But even more significant is the fact that from above, one can look directly down, into the plenary chamber of the Bundestag. Power is located beneath the dome, while the people stand above it. An architectural solution that has itself become a political message. At the center of the structure is a cone fitted with 360 mirrors arranged in 30 rows. These not only direct daylight into the plenary chamber but are also part of an advanced energy-saving system. Their movement is controlled by a computer that adjusts the mirrors to reflect and filter light according to the weather, maximizing the building's energy efficiency. In this way, the dome has become a living organism that feeds the building with light and air, merging ecology with symbolism. When the Reichstag building reopened its doors to Parliament in 1999, it finally became what it was always meant to be, the house of German democracy. A house where history is not forgotten, but overcome and reflected upon, in the spirit of a modern, progressive, democratic society.
From the observation deck near the dome of the Reichstag building, an impressive panoramic view of Berlin unfolds.
We can once again admire the Marie-Elisabeth Lüders building, elegantly situated on the banks of the Spree, a symbol of transparency and democratic work.
In the distance, the golden dome of the new synagogue on Oranienburger Street gleams, a significant landmark of Jewish history and culture in Berlin.
Friedrichstrasse Station, built in 1882, also catches the eye. During the Soviet occupation of East Berlin, it was a border station, a place of dramatic farewells and reunions in divided Berlin.
The Berlin TV Tower, built in the 1960s, rises unmistakably into the sky. At 368 meters, it is the tallest structure in Berlin and a distinctive symbol of the capital.
Directly in front of it, we can see the 25-story building of the International Trade Center, designed in the form of a giant black square with a white border by architect Hiramichi. It is home to 135 German and international companies.
Majestically, the Berlin Cathedral also rises, with its large green dome and three smaller side domes, located on Museum Island, a masterpiece of Wilhelmine architecture and one of the most important sacred buildings in the city.
The Red Town Hall, a brick building from the 19th century, is located at Alexanderplatz. It is the seat of the governing mayor of Berlin and one of the city's most well-known administrative buildings.
The famous Brandenburg Gate, the national symbol of German unity and perhaps the most iconic landmark of Berlin. Right next to it stands the United States Embassy at Pariser Platz, a place of historical and political significance.
Potsdamer Platz, with its modern skyscrapers and the distinctive umbrella-like roof of the Potsdamer Center, is a symbol of the new, reunified Berlin and one of the city's liveliest districts.
The Tiergarten, the largest green space in the center of Berlin, covers 207 hectares. Historical documents mention it as early as the 16th century as a royal hunting ground. Today, it is a green oasis in the heart of the city.
The Victory Column, standing 69 meters tall, is located at the Grosser Stern Square. It is crowned by the 8-meter-high golden statue of the Goddess of Victory, Victoria, a monument of Prussian military history and a popular observation platform. On the horizon, the massive white spheres of Teufelsberg rise into the sky, the site of a former U.S. radar station in the Grunewald forest, from which the Cold War was monitored. To the right stands the radio tower, located on the grounds of the Berlin Exhibition Center, another technological landmark of Berlin from the 1920s.
Also visible is the Carillon, the large bell tower housing one of the largest carillons in the world, the fourth largest, with 68 bells, regularly filling the air with concerts.
The Federal Chancellery, the official residence of the Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, is located opposite the Paul Wallot building, diagonally across from the Reichstag, nestled in the broad curve of the Spree. Nearby is also Berlin Central Station, further emphasizing the political heart of Berlin.
Visiting the Reichstag is free of charge, but prior registration is mandatory, either through the official website of the Bundestag or directly at the on-site service center. Online registration should be done about 4 to 6 weeks in advance. As demand is high, on-site registration is only possible on a limited basis, no earlier than 2 days before the planned visit, and even then, the demand is usually considerable. A valid passport or national ID card is required for registration.
After visiting the Reichstag, we head toward the Federal Chancellery. The walk is about 700 meters. The impressive Chancellery captivates not only with its modern architecture but also due to its symbolic significance as the center of Germany's executive power.
The building of the Federal Chancellery in Berlin is far more than just the seat of the executive branch. It is an architectural statement. Power can be transparent. Situated directly on the banks of the Spree, in the government district, the building impresses with its sheer dimensions. It is almost twice the size of the White House in Washington. Yet, unlike a sealed-off citadel, it appears open and inviting. The white concrete pillars, the expansive glass facades, and the wide, light-flooded rooms make the building seem to breathe. The facades are extensively glazed, the corridors transparent and visible, emphasizing the idea of openness and closeness to citizens. You won't find heavy fences or dark, intimidating entrances here. The style of the building can be described as postmodernism with elements of monumentality. It was constructed between 1998 and 2001, based on the designs of architects Axel Schultz and Charlotte Frank. Two massive side wings, connected by a glass central tract, are reminiscent of an open book or outstretched, welcoming arms. The Chancellery is not a bunker but rather an architectural metaphor for a government that is part of an open, societal dialogue, a place where power and transparency are not meant to be in contradiction.
Opposite the left wing of the Federal Chancellery begins the northern part of the Tiergarten. Here, on a meadow in the park, stands the sculpture Ensemble, Against War and Violence. These sculptures were created as part of a symposium of European sculptors in the early 1960s, as an artistic response to the construction of the Berlin Wall on August 13, 1961. The Sculptures Against War and Violence Ensemble serves as a poignant reminder of the tragic events associated with the division of Berlin, while also expressing the longing for peace and reconciliation. The sculptures blend quietly yet powerfully into the Tiergarten landscape, inviting reflection on the consequences of war, violence, and political division. They are part of the public space, impressively connecting art, history, and remembrance in close proximity to the centers of political power.
To reach our next destination, Bellevue Palace, we can enjoy a leisurely walk through the Tiergarten. It takes about 20 minutes. The walk leads us through one of Berlin's largest and greenest oases and offers several interesting stops along the way, the Carillon and the House of World Cultures. Alternatively, you can also take the convenient bus line 100, which runs every 10 minutes. The Schloss Bellevue stop is located directly in front of the palace.
The Berlin Carillon, which we already glimpsed from the Reichstag's observation deck, was built in 1987 to mark Berlin's 750th anniversary. It stands in the Tiergarten, embedded in a 42-meter-high granite tower that rises majestically among the trees. The Carillon has 68 bells, making it the fourth largest carillon in the world. The instrument can be played both automatically at set times and manually by a carillonneur. The automatic mechanism plays daily, in all weather, at scheduled times. Those who wish to experience a special live performance can attend one of the concerts where carillonneur Jeffrey Bossin personally plays the instrument. The concert dates can be found on the official website of the Berlin Carillon. For anyone wanting to delve deeper into the fascinating world of this unique instrument, there is also the option of a guided tour of the tower. During the tour, Geoffrey Bosson himself explains the Carillon's technology, shows the playing console, and shares captivating stories about the history, traditions, and special acoustics of the Berlin Carillon.
The House of World Cultures, located near the Carillon, serves as an international forum for contemporary art, culture, and global dialogue, with a special focus on non-Western cultures and current global issues. The building was constructed in 1957 as a gift from the United States to West Berlin and was originally called the Congress Hall. The architect was the American Hugh Stubbins. After being rebuilt in 1987, the building was reopened as the House of World Cultures. It is easily recognizable by its white, wave-shaped roof, which earned it the nickname, the Oyster, among Berliners.
Bellevue Palace has been the official residence of the President of Germany since 1994. It is located not far from the German Bundestag and the Federal Chancellery, on the edge of the Tiergarten. The palace is surrounded by a spacious park that borders the banks of the Spree River. Here, an old stone bridge connects the riverbanks. The picturesque bridge, adorned with Imperial Lanterns, was built in the 19th century and named after the German church reformer Martin Luther. The Luther Bridge is a listed historical monument.
Bellevue Palace was built in 1785 by order of Prince Ferdinand of Prussia, the younger brother of Prussian King Frederick II of Hohenzollern, a key figure of the Enlightenment. The architect was Michael Philipp Baumann, a representative of late Baroque and early Classicism. The palace is designed in the classical style, with a symmetrical facade and columns. The name Bellevue means beautiful view and refers to the picturesque location of the building overlooking the Spree River. The main building is 3 stories high and features a central risalet, a projecting section of the facade highlighted by classical columns. Above it sits a triangular pediment, reminiscent of ancient temples, giving the building an expressive and festive character, especially at the entrance area. The interior rooms have been remodeled several times, particularly after the destruction caused by World War II.
In the 19th century, the palace served as a royal residence and summer palace. During the Third Reich, various institutions were housed in the building. The palace was heavily damaged during World War II and rebuilt in the 1950s. Since 1994, it has been the official residence of the President of the Federal Republic of Germany. However, the President does not reside there permanently. The palace is primarily used as a representative residence and for official functions. Occasionally, the palace is open to visitors during the open day. The palace grounds, the park, and the surrounding areas are popular destinations for Berliners. Access to Bellevue Palace itself is not possible for tourists, but a virtual tour of the palace complex is available on the official website of the Federal President, offering insights into the interior of the halls and the palace park.
From Bellevue Palace, it is only about 300 meters to Grosser Stern Square. The Grosser Stern is an important roundabout located at the center of the Tiergarten, one of Berlin's largest parks. From here, 5 major roads radiate outward, giving the square its name, Star. At the center of the square rises the monumental 69-meter-high Victory Column, crowned by an 8-meter-tall, gilded statue of the Roman goddess of victory, Victoria. Not far from Grosser Stern, within the Tiergarten, are 3 sculptures honoring prominent figures considered the founding fathers of the German Empire, Bismarck, Moltke, and Roon. These monuments form a symbolic pantheon of the Second Reich, honoring key architects of the unified German Empire, which existed from 1871 to 1918.
The Moltke Monument is dedicated to the Prussian general and advocate for German unification, Helmuth von Moltke. It was created in 1904 by Joseph Uphues in the neo-Baroque style and is considered one of the masterpieces of the Berlin School of Sculpture. The 5-meter-tall statue, made of lost marble, depicts the great silent man Moltke in uniform, leaning against a balustrade, wearing his general's cap and gazing resolutely forward. Around his neck, he wears the Grand Cross of the Iron Cross, awarded to him for his services to German unification. The 6-meter-high pedestal, also made of lost marble, bears the gilded inscription Moltke, and is designed in the Art Nouveau style. The total height of the monument is 11 meters.
The approximately 7-meter-high National Monument to Bismarck, located at the northern edge of Grosser Stern, is one of the most significant Bismarck monuments in Germany. It honors the outstanding figure of German history, the First Reich Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, architect of German unification. The monument was originally created between 1897 and 1901 by the sculptor Reinhold Begas in the neo-Baroque style and initially stood in the square in front of the Reichstag building. During the Nazi redesigns of Berlin, it was relocated, along with the monuments to Roon and Moltke and the Victory Column, to Grosser Stern between 1938 and 1939. At its original location, the monuments interfered with the plans of Hitler's architect Albert Speer to redesign Berlin into the world capital Germania. The Bismarck Monument is considered one of the masterpieces of the Berlin School of Sculpture and one of the most important monuments honoring Bismarck in Germany.
Bismarck is depicted in full size wearing a parade uniform, with cloak and sword, standing in a dignified pose, a symbol of the state's power and authority. The monument's massive pedestal is made of red granite. Around Bismarck's central figure are grouped 4 allegorical sculptural ensembles, each symbolizing aspects of his political and military influence. In front of the pedestal kneels Atlas, bearing the globe on his back, a reference to Bismarck's titanic strength, and a symbol of Bismarck's global stature. Behind him kneels Siegfried, forging the imperial sword, underscoring Bismarck's role in defeating the enemies of the empire. On the left side of the pedestal, a Sibyl is depicted, interpreted as an allegory of political wisdom. She rides on the back of a sphinx and gazes into the book of history she holds in her left hand, a symbol of Bismarck's intellectual significance. On the right side of the pedestal stands a female ruler figure with scepter and crown, presumably an allegory of Germany or state authority. She tramples a leopard underfoot, representing discord and rebellion, an expression of Bismarck's unconquerable power. The monument was erected not only as a tribute to Bismarck but also as a national symbol of German unity and Prussian strength. Together with the Victory Column and the monuments to the generals, it forms a kind of axis of remembrance, glorifying the military and state power of the Second Reich.
The monument to the famous General Roon at Grosser Stern is dedicated to Albrecht von Roon, the reformer of the Prussian army and advocate for German unification. It was created in 1904 by the sculptor Harro Magnusson in the neo-Baroque style and is considered one of the masterpieces of the Berlin School of Sculpture.
The Victory Column with the golden sculpture at its peak is one of Berlin's most famous landmarks. The winged figure of the Roman goddess of victory, Victoria, shines visibly from the top of the column. The Victory Column is a monument glorifying Prussia's victories in the wars leading to the unification of Germany in the 19th century. These wars culminated in the founding of the German Empire in 1871. The column was erected to commemorate Prussia's military victories over Denmark, Austria, and France. It was designed by Johann Heinrich Strack, with construction beginning in 1865 and taking 8 years to complete. The winged figure at the top was created by Friedrich Drake. Every element of this monument emphasizes its triumphant character, the pose of the statue, the gilded cannon barrels along the shaft of the column, and the mosaic by Anton von Werner in the gallery, depicting scenes of war. Visitors can climb to the observation platform and enjoy the view over the surroundings. The Victory Column is a living legend, a pulsing heart of the city, a symbol of strength, pride, and enduring glory.
Dear friends, our journey through Berlin comes to an end today, a city where every stone breathes history and every glance toward the future is filled with hope. We have visited the Futurium, a symbol of Germany's leap into a world of new ideas and technologies. We walked through the halls of the Reichstag, the heart of German democracy, where the voice of the people resonates in the glass transparency of the future. We caught sight of the Chancellery, the place from which decisions are made that affect not only Germany but all of Europe. We admired from the outside the elegant Bellevue Palace, the official residence of the federal president, embodying the spirit of dignity and representation. And finally, we stood before the Victory Column, more than just a monument, but a symbol of overcoming, strength, and unity. Berlin is a city that knows how to remember, how to change, and how to inspire. I hope it has shown you its face today, multifaceted, complex, yet irresistibly captivating. May the memories of this place accompany you for a long time. And who knows, perhaps Berlin will inspire you to something meaningful in your own life. Thank you sincerely for your attention, your interest, and the warm atmosphere. Farewell, whether in Berlin or anywhere else in this world where history and future meet as impressively as they do here.